Welcome back to another Productivity Like a Pro podcast episode with my dear friend Paco Cantero and our dear members inside the chat. Welcome back.
Paperless movement, your productivity, your way.
And I want to start with one of the questions that we received on YouTube actually as a comment. It was just wondering why you cannot do the shallow thinking part in Heptabase as well. What is driving the use of Tana for this part? I think that's a really interesting question that we get a lot actually, especially when we work with our inner circle members. They are keen to take on the productivity system that we have, the tool stack that we have, but we keep repeating, no need to copy paste. In fact, don't even try, because if you are good to go, for example, to Heptabase, that's already a big step, and then start mastering this one tool instead of using both. So this question is really legit, and that's something that we usually try to force our members to, forcefully, to use Heptabase first and leverage it to a maximum before considering moving to Tana. Paco, why is this?
Yeah. Well, the fact is that I think, if I'm not wrong, that we have a video out there that say don't use Tana or something like that.
Yeah, we had a podcast episode actually talking about this.
Yeah, podcast episode. Yeah, don't use Tana because it's not necessary at all. Could we live, Tom and myself, without Tana? Well, I don't think so. That's why we are using it, okay? But the point is that it's not necessary at all the moment that you have crystal clear defined the differentiation between deep thinking and shallow thinking. Based on that, is up to you and your circumstances and the way your brain, your one and only brain works, that you should decide between using or your thinking area to manage your information just one tool, or start increasing the number of tools, because, well, we even use more tools than those ones. Those are the main ones, but we use some of the tools to manage information that we don't even mention because we don't want to get people confused, okay? Because the moment that you really understand what deep thinking means and shallow thinking means, you start finding subtleties, and those subtleties can be much better covered by using some of the tools, okay?
The key is really you differentiate between shallow and deep thinking, but it's also very important to understand the different information types. So there might be shallow thinking. We split this, into shallow and deep thinking, but then there are again subtleties in deep thinking and shallow thinking that might go to different tools. And these are the tools that you mentioned where we say, okay, let's say, for example, deep thinking. We go for deep thinking in Heptabase, okay? That's the case right now. But there are sort of situations where we go to Miro, and this is also deep thinking that we do in Miro, which is then a temporary intermediate tool to do some deep thinking as a team. So we don't want to confuse you even more by adding these tools to the tool stack. But the key is, the moment you master one tool and understand the different types of information that you collect on a daily basis, what type of note-taking or thinking you do in this tool, you will start hitting a ceiling inside using just one tool like Heptabase, and then you're seeking for other tools automatically. But the key here is that you start looking for tools, understanding what you're actually looking for. The problem that we see is, Heptabase is not good enough for quickly capturing stuff. And that's actually one of the reasons to use Tana for us, right? So it's not good enough capturing, and that's really annoying you on a daily basis. So you look for another tool and you switch completely to a new tool, because how people demonstrate these tools on YouTube, like Tana, it's their all-in-one solution for everything. So there might be another person coming in and saying, why can't you use just Tana instead of Heptabase? And it's a legit question as well, as much as it is to use Heptabase for shallow thinking. So to get back to the original question, if we would use Heptabase for shallow thinking, it is possible. Also, there is a web clipper for capturing and things like that. There is no inbox in Heptabase. It's not easy to quickly capture something on mobile and send it to Heptabase, and it will get there in some inbox and you can process it later. That's missing for us, a reason to go to Tana. There's no proper outlining. There's outlining capabilities of some sort, but not at the speed that we can have Tana. So we usually say Heptabase has it all, what you can do in Tana, but Tana does it faster. in many regards. So when we quickly when we talk about information notes, to me, Tana is really just taking meeting notes. I'm not taking meeting notes in Heptabase, which would be perfectly possible in Heptabase, but it's so much faster to do it in Tana, and then not even starting with integrations with my calendar and all these things in addition. But laying this out and then saying, okay, this is the setup you need to get. You need to get Tana, you need to get Heptabase, and then make a course about it, how you combine the things. People would call us out and say, are you crazy? Why should I take the course? And it's not working for my specific situation. And that's why our ICOR methodology is tool agnostic. And there you learn how to take the most out of each tool that you're already using. So not even going to Heptabase or any other tool, understanding why you're using the tools and what you want to achieve there. And by realizing the different information types that you're collecting, you will realize the different feature restrictions that these tools have. And then you look for another tool that master the missing feature, and you can add this other tool on top of your tool stack. But you then perfectly know what to store in the other tool. I think it's even more confusing now how I described it.
No, but
in the chat below.
Point is also that the moment that you split things into different tools, it perfectly fits the approach. I mean, if you are using Heptabase just for deep thinking by splitting between Tana and Heptabase, you don't clutter your deep thinking system at all.
Yeah.
And that gives you the clarity of the things that are stored in that deep thinking. Whereas you have, for all the shallow thinking, for me, I'm constantly writing things down on Tana, okay? If I'm in a phone call, if I'm in a meeting, if I think about something quickly, whatever, it comes to my mind, no matter if I'm on desktop, on mobile, I can quickly capture, it goes there, okay? Having a powerful and pure outlining, that gives a lot of speed, because you just using your keyboard, you can move things up and down, you can indent and indent, you can zoom in and zoom out. For me, going into a node and seeing everything there with that crystal clear vision, for me, that seems a lot of power, talking about that. Also, linking things to a database just with one click, it's amazing, because you don't interrupt your workflow. And that's important. Those are the key features that enhance your experience talking about information, especially when you are a busy professional and you don't have the time you need to really process the things as they should be processed. Because for that shallow thinking part, you just want to write things down to give some coherence, put some order, and that's it, okay? Because the moment that you need to really go deeper into anything is the moment that you can pause, that you can analyze, that you can bet on visual features or even visual tools. And that's why we are splitting between Heptabase and Tana. But that doesn't make, again, we will repeat, that you need to use it at all, especially because talking about Heptabase is a super completed tool that has most of the features that you will need to handle your information. And it's the moment that those friction points arise that you should try to think. The point is that, for instance, in my case, I've been using outlining for decades, okay, because it's the way that I think, and for me it's quite useful to create a connection between data, just indenting the things. For me, that's so powerful, doing that quickly, okay, and the moment that I'm into any branch, I can go into it, forget about it, it's everything crystal clear, a blank screen just inside that branch. For me, that's something that I've been using for decades, and the moment that I miss that, it's quite painful for me. It's what happened. I try to force the things whenever we bet on Heptabase, because we started with Tana as soon as it emerged in 2022. In fact, I think it was September, so more or less 2 years ago. We bet on that because, well, we came from workflow in my case, and well, it was a natural way of enhance the experience of outlining, because with workflow you don't have the possibility of taking care of databases, something that Tana really nailed it, especially about the implementation. And based on that, well, for us was quite natural. That doesn't mean that for someone who never used an outlining will start using those features, feeling comfortable, also creating all the setup for Tana, that it's not easy at all for people who never faced this type of tools. And in fact, by going into Tana, they're getting into a complicated way of living, without having the need of that, okay? Because in fact, for most of the people that we recommended Heptabase, it worked pretty well. The learning curve doesn't exist at all talking about Heptabase. I mean, if you compare it with Tana's learning curve, and it's up to you and your current situation and your knowledge about tools that you should decide between splitting or not splitting. To end my comment here, I will say that differentiating between the deep thinking and the shallow thinking in two different tools make all the sense, because they are different brain processes, talking about physical brain processes. At the moment that you go into one of tool or the other, your brain starts working in that mode. And that for me is something that it's pretty important to really increase your performance, because you know when you are going into a tool how you should react, okay, how your brain should work. And that's something that for me is crystal clear. The moment I go into Tana, it's something that requires me speed, moving things quickly. And the moment that I move to Heptabase, I slow down myself and I make a different approach to the tool. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah, and something that wasn't mentioned in this answer was a big difference is how the information is stored. So in Tana, I can just go in, note it down, and I don't have to think about where to place it in my PKM system. And that's a problem with a lot of tools like Notion, for example, where I always, and also Evernote, where I always have to think about when I note something down, where do I place this note in order to find it later on, so to make it sense. Then people think still in folders. So even if you use tags, you might be faster, but still you need to think about where to place it. As I said, there is no inbox, but there is also always a final destination for all these things. So in Heptabase, we have cards, which are the individual notes, and just the feeling that I have to create a card, even if, if they say, well, they are just in the card library, it just feels like unorganized when I put in the card and I see all these cards there. To me, Tana, I go to the journal, I write it down on the day, and therefore that's it. I don't have to think further about it because it will automatically organize itself by applying the super tags onto it, or just having the context with the day and things like that. I think that's a key as well, to capture shallow thoughts versus having this in Heptabase. And you said something very important, and many people say this as well, using Heptabase, you immediately get the feeling you don't want to clutter up Heptabase with shallow thoughts, because there is really where you think deeply about the things, and you don't want to have all the shallow things floating around along with the deep thoughts. That's what makes it even worse, having the cards there, because to me, each card has some deep thoughts. There's a reason why I created this card. If I would create cards for my web clipper, and there is a post that I saved and all this, and we didn't even mention Reader, right? The Read Later app that we are also using to even make the shallow thinking from Tana even shallower. So we have even another barrier before it goes even into Tana to have even split there. So I think we answered this question enough. John said, switching to tagging from folders was my aha yesterday, rewatching your videos. Well, that's great. This is something we cannot talk enough about. And tagging is just the start, because nowadays you can go even further beyond to organize your information. I think that's a good segue into the next question. Isn't the idea of mastering information management too abstract for practical applications?
No. That's what because in fact, this is what we've aimed and achieved with ICOR. That's why we created ICOR, because we were dealing with many abstract things that were flying all over the place without being defined, without creating boundaries, without giving a meaning to each of them. So that's why people get confused, and even ourselves, because the moment that we say things about information management, what is that? Because that's a different approach, like the one that we have just shared right now, that it's deep thinking and shallow thinking. We have definitions for those mental processes and the tools behind. The moment that we start creating definitions is the moment that we really increase the probability of understanding something, or at least we can start discussing, okay? Because the moment that we have created the definition of shallow thinking, okay, we can start putting examples on the table and saying, well, that's shallow thinking. That's not shallow thinking. That's deep thinking. We consider that a mix of everything. So let's clarify the things. And the moment that we can start discussing, having a conversation in the exact same terms, is the moment that we can evolve and we can grow, because we are understanding what this story is all about, because productivity is so huge, information is so huge, project management is so huge, that if we don't create these concepts and workflows, it's impossible to really understand what's going on. And that's what's happening in the productivity realm, especially talking about busy professionals, because at the end, busy professionals need pragmatism, okay? They cannot deal with abstract things because they have a lot of pragmatic things on the table that they need to solve, okay? So they cannot start doing kind of philosophical or this type of conceptual approaches, because they don't have the time, okay? And that's why we created this synthesis of knowledge named ICOR, that it's the methodology that we created, where we perfectly go through all the different areas of productivity, talking about business and busy professionals, and create a sense out of that, because we are pragmatic, okay? We are not believers in theoretical, just a minimum of it to put things into practice immediately. I think that that's what we've achieved with ICOR.
Yeah, and I want to ask to add there, I just want to reread the question. Isn't the idea of mastering information management too abstract for practical application? And I can say no as well, because how we master information through ICOR is based on real-world experience. That's it. I was successful working in corporate the moment I started master the information management for myself, for the team, and even for cross-department wise, in order to increase team performance. Paco, running 4 businesses in parallel without information management, it would be a mess. The thing is, people do too much work about work, and most of this is searching for information. And this is what makes people search for productivity tips and how to become more organized, right? And this is all this. This is not abstract at all. The thing is, people tend not to understand where to start, and that they see always information as one big blob. Where in ICOR, we just teach the differentiation between the different information types that you have there by realizing, and then also the shallow between deep thinking and information that we collect on a daily basis, and the outer and the inner world, and what type of informations we have there. Just these realizations make it so much easier to understand in your real life situations what information really means and where to store the different types of information. And it makes it very practical the moment you have a running system, and you feel it then in the output, because at ICOR, something that was crucial the moment we thought about ICOR and bringing all the concepts together was that we want to move information to action. And it starts with information and moves then to action. And in so many businesses, it starts with action, and then people start to search for the information. And if you do this on a running system, that your information is always up to date, you always kickstart the moment you start working on a task, because all the information is already readily there available to you. And that makes it so important.
Yes, because I think that giving meaning to information is crucial. Okay, the moment that we know, first off, what information we should capture, for instance, that's why we designed a mental model called the Capturing Beast that helps you to know what you should pay attention to. And the moment that you capture something, it's because it has a meaning and it has a purpose, okay? We don't capture information because we have enough information nowadays, okay? The point is taking advantage of all the amazing information that we have access to. The moment that we are really good at capturing and managing the information, put it into action, is the moment that everything it's working. That's why we say that ICOR is where information meets action, because that's what we do. It's giving meaning to information, something that it's so generic concept, okay, that it's abstract. We agree. We have make it concrete, okay, by giving it meaning and giving the people the tools to take the best out of the information they need for them, okay? Because it's not just about the information you capture and how you manage that information, but also how you use information to better communicate with your team. What's the information that you should interchange with your team workers? How do you bring ideas into reality so that you just lose a lot of ideas because you don't have an information management system in place? All those things creates the sensation because it becomes a reality that you can make information something tangible and something useful. Focus on your business, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Hey, enjoying the content so far? So how do you feel after seeing all this? Do you think your productivity system is at this level? Take our free 3-minute quiz to find out. Whether you struggle with note-taking, PKM, task or project management, or even workflow automation, we've got you covered. Depending on your results, you'll get a tailor-made free email course starting right after you finish the quiz that will instantly level up your productivity system with laser-focused, actionable advice. Click the link in the description below and unlock your full potential. And we are personally here to help you succeed. So let's ICOR together.
Let's move on to the next question, which just hooks into the information part. So how does ICOR ensure that actions taken are aligned with long-term goals?
I know that everyone would like to know every day if he or she is doing the right things to achieve their goals. I think that that's a question that every busy professional is asking themselves every day, because that's what you really want to do. You want to guarantee that every piece of effort, energy, money you put into something is driving towards achieving your goals. And that's what we have created thanks to ICOR, because we are forcing the things that no matter what you are doing today will be directly linked to a goal that you have previously set without having to create a review process that you are constantly reviewing, ensuring that you don't feel unsure. It's something that comes out naturally, how we make that alignment. That's why, again, there's a mental model behind that. It's called PIA, okay? Plan, execute, align, that guarantees that you are always moving towards your goals, okay? And I think that that replies to the question quite straightforward, because this is what ICOR allows you. It allows you to really plan the things and start executing and completing the things that will move you one step after the other to achieve your goals.
Yeah, and on a high level, to give some simple examples there, the understanding that you have your goals, and out of these goals you create your projects. And then just the idea I just need to complete these projects, then I will achieve my goals. But then these projects break down into several tasks that you might have. So that's the top-down approach. So you start with the goal, and then you think about what you need to do in order to achieve the goal. The issue is, and no matter if you're in big corporate or just a solopreneur, when you do this exercise, especially in corporate actually, and you are responsible for more than just doing the project work, but also operations, this is where it becomes tricky, because you can get swamped with operations tasks on a daily basis, and you are not achieving your goals because you postponing the things that really matter. And that's again part of ICOR, where we also talk about deep work versus shallow work. And you know this also from Carl Newport. He talks about this as well. This is critical. But what we teach in ICOR is, how do you actually apply this on your daily work? And again, on a high level, it's easy. You split the day into two parts, where you have one part to focus on your deep work. So that's what we call the daily highlight, that each day during the business week, you will complete one crucial task that is part of your projects. So that's your daily highlight. And just by doing this, people say, well, why should I just complete one task a day if I could do more? In fact, you're doing less than one most of the time, as you're swamped with shallow work. And that's something we move, Paco and I at least, you can do whenever you like this during the day. But we do our shallow work on the afternoon when the energy levels are lower, because usually there's not much energy needed in order to do the operations work that you need to do. And if so, if you need to have high levels, then at least you realize that you have some shallow work and you have some deep work. And if you cannot complete your deep work, you can talk to your boss, to your team leader, or to yourself if you made this up and say, okay, we need to prioritize. We need to do the shallow work in order to keep the business running. So is this aligned to some project, right? Which could be then a goal, like keep the business running, and that's something I did in my previous team that I was managing. They were swamped in operations work. And in fact, people completed projects and then high-fived and moved the open tasks to our team in operations to complete the missing tasks of the projects. Then this goes further, right? Because in the budget, you don't see this. If operations are working on this, that's another story. The key is realizing what you're working there. Is this actually really just operations? Is it project management work or not? And then maybe, and that's what I did in this team, one person was then only focusing on operations and the other one was just focusing in project work, for example, where when I talk about this, because operations there was working on tickets, IT tickets, and you have to have some energy in order to complete them because it's complicated and so on. Then it makes really worth to say, okay, this is actually deep thinking work that you have to do. Also, it's just operations. But again, it's like we talk about information with the different information types. By realizing the different types of action that you do, you will be able to organize this in a different way. So always try to work on one task a day that is directly correlated to one of the projects, and therefore the project should have a goal behind, and you will start completing goals on autopilot. And another thing that we talk about is it's impossible to perfectly estimate how long you will need for tasks or projects or goals to complete. So that's why we always set the goals to 90 days only, quarterly, and then review on a quarterly basis. Did we complete the goal or not? If not, we perfectly see the progress, obstacles that might have occurred, and then we get, the further we go with the goal or with the project progress, the more we get an understanding how much longer it will take, or if we should stop, or whatever is going on there. But the key is to have a running system that consistently is up to date. And by applying ICOR, you have it always up to date. That's why we don't believe in project managers who keep asking for status updates the team. That's first of all interrupting the people from their work because they have to come up with something telling this project manager. And it also shows there's no system in place that actually manages itself.
Yes, and it's also important to mention here that ICOR gives you a structure no matter the time frame that you are working or looking at. Because, for instance, we give a structure to define properly your quarterly goals, but we also give a structure to the week and each day, and everything is interconnected, creating coherence, but defining that structure that gives you meaning. Okay, so the moment that you are tackling actions, you know how to handle them, because beyond projects, we have created some other containers, okay, of tasks like work streams that help you a lot with business processes that are constantly ongoing. We also have operations as another container. So everything is pretty well thought to represent the reality of a busy professional. So that no matter the time frame that you are looking at, you always have an answer, because the system forces you to reply to those direct questions, and it's pretty easy, okay? The moment that you receive those questions, it's pretty easy to create the reply and to put things into work, and that's what matters the most.
Yeah. And John says in the chat, another mind shift for me, moving from tasks, projects organized by business area rather than goals and speedies. And that's what Paco just mentioned here, with the different types of projects that are going on, like the one-time projects with a start and an end date, the work streams which are recurring projects, and then the operations. You know the different workload that you have in there, and using tools like ClickUp, you then perfectly see what is this person working on most, right? And then allocate the resources accordingly. And now we come to the final question, which is, how do you convince someone that understanding concepts is worth the time investment? And that's something that I see a lot, or people who consider not to join the membership because they consider they don't have time enough to go through the ICOR journey. That's something that especially our inner circle members know by investing just 1 month with us together, which is very intense. But you have to put time aside to focus on the ICOR journey. Then we say it's possible to achieve this in 1 month. You invest time in order to free up time. People going through the ICOR journey, we see it, we have it in the testimonials as well. They free up 7 hours per week after 2 weeks, just realizing some basic concepts. These are just subtleties that are changing in the system by the basic concepts. This person was able to free up 7 hours per week accordingly. And now you can do the math, what you can do with 7 additional hours in a week. Wouldn't you invest 1 month, even if it would be 24/7, 1 month? I would invest the time if I know for the rest of my life I will free up a lot of time. And I will find that's the key. It won't stop there, just, that you freed up some time with the first realizations. It is a snowball effect, because the moment you realize this, you see it all over the place, places that you can optimize, processes that you can optimize, things that you can delegate, things that you did always in a manual way and you could automate these things. This is really the key outcome. And to me, there's no question about it, that if people say, I have no time to do that, well, then you will never have time.
Yeah, and for me, the real time waster is switching tools. That's one of the biggest causes why people join the movement, okay? ICOR and the membership and even the inner circle cohorts that we create every month, because it's time switching that it's really painful, okay? And also not knowing how to face the market of software. How do you really know how to choose the right tool? It's just because you need to understand the concepts and workflows behind. If you don't really know what a project management, especially because there are a lot of generic terms, okay, that everyone uses referring to different things, okay? For me, a project management means A, for Tom could mean B, and for other one could refer to a C concept. That's why we created just a methodology with clear concepts, well-defined and well-reframed, okay? Because that structure, those limitations is what allows us, because how the heck are you gonna choose a planner if you don't know what a planner is, if you don't even know that planners existed? That's why concepts are so crucial, and that's why we have reduced the amount of concepts that we teach to the minimum, okay? To the minimum to really achieve what we want, that is choosing the right tools that can enhance the way we work and how we perform. Because the moment that you start understanding the concepts and workflow, it's the moment that you increase the probability that you're going to choose the right tool, that you're going to use it the right way, and the moment that you're going to reduce your tool switching time. Because, for instance, we have tools that we've been using for years, because people don't understand that the moment that you really bet on a tool for a long term, okay, is the moment that you really know what's behind a tool, if it's really fitting perfectly to your needs. It's how you take the best out of each tool. And it's the way also that the moment that you switch a tool, because that doesn't mean that you should stick for a tool for 10 years, unless you are 100% convinced that there's nothing better out there. And by knowing these concepts and workflows, if you stick with a tool for years, it's because you are fully convinced that that's the best tool possible for your use case. And that's why we stick to most of our tools, but we are constantly trying to force them, try to kill them, okay, to see if we can evolve, if we can improve. And the point is that there are times that we change, and most of the time that we don't change at all, okay, unless something really amazing. For instance, talking about Outliner, we bet quite a long time for workflow, but the moment that Tana launched it was crystal clear for us that that was an enhancement of the outlining experience. Roam didn't do it, and any other outliners never did something like that. That's why we made the switch, and here, 2 years later, we have been working daily with a tool that has enhance all our process and our workflows. So the moment that you really dedicate to define those concepts, like what is a task management? Do people really know out there what a task management is? Perfectly defined, okay? The use case that that tool should cover. When you really understand those concepts, it's pretty easy to see quickly if a tool is worth it or not. And by not switching tools, because each move is a cost of energy, a cost of learning process, a cost of maybe going into that tool and understanding 3-4 months later that that wasn't a great move. Well, imagine that's what is not worth it, the time investment. But concepts and workflows, for me, those are the keys. And in fact, that's how we have thousands of busy professionals that they have understood the tools that they need, or they have changed the way they were using their tools to enhance their performance day by day.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I have to laugh many times when the same people who say I have no time to learn ICOR are the same people who keep switching tools because they saw a YouTuber and they think, yeah, that's the all-in-one, and the time that goes watching the videos and then trying to wrap your head around through the new tool and then just testing something to let it fall in the next day, that's something that you don't feel because maybe you are attracted to these things, right? Testing new things like out. But that's something that will never help you on the long term. And John said it very well in the chat. He says, tools come and go, principles last years. I left this one. And Adrienne says, prior to ICOR and the Inner Circle, I wasted a lot of time checking out new tools, trying to find the perfect tool for achieving my goals. Now I focus on defining and optimizing my personal and business workflows, then look at what tool supports those workflows with a minimal amount of friction. Thank you very much, Adrienne. That's a perfect answer, and that's what we, well, love to see from previous Inner Circle members. It just confirms the things work. And Adrienne also says switching tools and learning them sucks. Yeah, and I was also in this trap when I started my corporate work, and I thought a tool needs to be the solution, and there was Evernote, and then Notion came out, and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing, and I invested 2 weeks in setting up something that worked in my head. But the moment you have to use it on a daily basis, you see all the friction points that you created there. And ICOR is the outcome out of this. It is the tool agnostic approach to understand your productivity system end to end. And then the tools are just another layer that you put on top of the system that make it work. That's why we wouldn't be happy if somebody shuts down Tana or Heptabase, but we wouldn't suffer. We would just move on to the next tool, open it up, apply our workflows and concepts again, and we keep working. That's it. And that's what ICOR is all about. Everybody, I thank you very much for this amazing session again with our 4 questions today. And we cannot wait to keep this going because we think it's very interesting to go through these different topics and get a more holistic view on what we solved with ICOR. Everybody, we catch you up next week.
Thank you, guys. See you.